America from the album Make It Big. Well, a man who's going to make it big. In fact, he's already made it big. It's my first guest today, Rob Fiddaman. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Martin.
How are you? You well?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. You're a music historian, aren't you? You love your music. Yes,
well, I kind of fell into it through loving music. It's actually got me on a path to doing things I could only dream about, really. So, yes.
Such as?
Well, doing my own radio show, doing a book, starting a record label, just helping champion new music, really. Writing a weekly newspaper column. I mean, meeting people like people I always wanted to meet, and meeting them through selling memorabilia, and that's how it all started off, was through collecting music memorabilia.
Oh, what was your first piece of music memorabilia then, Rob?
I started collecting 60s memorabilia, but got the bug for it and more of the high-end stuff. So I had a camera that belonged to John Lennon, the driving license for his first car. Lots of really crazy stuff, to be honest with you, I've had over the years. And then I thought that really my era was the 90s. So I started selling 90s Britpop memorabilia because no one was doing it. And then quite quickly I was contacted by a lot of the original band members asking me if I'd sell their gold discs or guitars for them. And it led me on to valuing certain items on these sort of auction sort of programs, and it kind of exploded. And then I did a book. And then I started doing quite a bit of radio and valuing stuff for people. I worked on a few sort of big exhibitions like the Oasis one. I valued all the stuff that the band members put in. And then people started asking me, would I help manage bands, which I'd never done before. And then I ended up starting my own label. So this has all come out of the passion for music and collecting stuff.
Wonderful.
So it's bonkers, yeah.
Well, what an incredible story. You must be proud of your progress.
Well, I mean, I just keep pushing and just seeing how far I can get. And but yeah, I mean, it's certainly fun. It's certainly not something that I could have gone to university for and just gone on this path. It's just something that's kind of sort of happened, really.
Yeah, and now you're living the dream.
Yes, I'm living the dream.
Yeah. Let's go back to memorabilia quickly. Is there one prized piece of memorabilia that you've got that you could never ever sell or get rid of?
I've got some handwritten lyrics for a Paul Weller song, and I've got some that have been handwritten by one of the members of Oasis, and a gold disc for Definitely Maybe, which is a genuine one. What I've decided to do is all the stuff that I was buying to sell, I've got rid of that, but all the stuff like band members are giving me to thank them for stuff I've done for them, obviously I keep that. But I've had a lot of crazy stuff over the years, but I think it's funny, really, because you find certain people collect certain things. Some people just collect vinyl. Some people will look for original concert posters. Some people look for like sort of set lists that people have written on stage, or guitars people have used. I mean, I've always been into the original concert posters. I mean, one's for the Beatles, if you can find one and it's authentic. Even a small one could go for like 20, 30 grand, So trying to get now the early Oasis concert posters. I mean, I don't mean like the HMV ones that you see when they were released. I mean, ones when they did gigs early days, things like that.
Incredible.
But,
how does it make you feel when you're holding in your hand like a piece of paper that someone's thoughts have gone on there and they've written it, and you've got all that energy to it, and the songs have been released? It must be wonderful. Yeah,
it is quite remarkable. Actually, I've got a venue contract for when Oasis played in '94 in Stoke-on-Trent, where I'm based at the moment, and they agreed to do the gig for like £100 plus a percentage of the door takings. And on the day, it was the day that the debut single Supersonic was released, and it was a very big music venue called the Wheat Sheaf, and it's now Wetherspoons. But a lot of big people did play there in the day, and it's quite nice to have something, like that, something a bit more, historical. These things that tell a bit of a story, don't they?
Yeah, really, really do.
autographs are difficult. I mean, it's the provenance which will add, a lot more money, maybe 40% to it. I mean, it's the provenance really, especially when people said, oh, my grandparents, they got the Beatles autographs, but unfortunately they didn't see them sign it. They gave it to somebody, and unfortunately the tour manager may have signed it, or John may have signed for Paul, and there's all this sort of thing that goes on. So provenance of history is really, really important when you start getting to high-end stuff, or it's a guitar that, like, Jimi Hendrix has used or something. I mean, it is a bit of a minefield with it. So if you can get something from the band member directly, or one of their family, or this kind of stuff, it is really, you do have to be so careful with some of the stuff that's for sale. Yeah,
you do need provenance, don't you?
Yeah, it's such an important thing, and because I've been selling things to ex-band members over the years, that's great, especially when you've been to the house and they said, well, look, can you sell this? And it's, it's just, and obviously because it's new to the market, it's not like it's something that's been sold in Bonhams than 5 years ago, and you can look it up and see, what it sold for and this, that, the other. I mean, some of these things that I had sort of sold were sort of fresh to the market. It was just things that, there was one band member, he was in Ocean Colour Scene, and they all had a little Mini Cooper for 100 Mile High for the music video, and he saved it for his daughter for when she went to university, and she didn't want it. So I ended up selling it for the band member. So it can be lots of stuff. Yeah, people like holding on to gold discs and stuff. And don't forget, you see, some of these band members, they were making a lot of money, but that's 20 years ago. So 20 years living the high life, the champagne lifestyle, and then they've got kids. They're going to university. The royalties do diminish over a certain time period for songs that they've been involved with.
Yeah.
So then things do have to be sold sometimes, and they can just take, open up a garage or wherever they've kept stuff, and you'd be surprised how much stuff people keep, and of course people want to buy that, and it's a nice little income with anything that they've got. They want to sell. Obviously, some people want to sell it, don't want to sell it through Bonhams and Christie's. People want to sell it
eBay.
Well, yeah, but then you see it looks like that they're skint, you see, and people don't like that. So that's why I was selling under the radar to collectors that weren't going to just put all these pictures up on Instagram or Twitter that they've bought this, that it belonged to so-and-so. Some of these collectors are quite private and they don't want people to know what they've got. In a lot of cases, actually, some of these people aren't short of money. It's just probably they left the band in a bad situation and they decided to move into property and selling stuff, and they don't really want to be known for too much about that band, and they want to get rid of everything that they've got left to remind them of it. So,
yeah. And if you've got 20 gold discs, one more you probably don't need, do you? So you think, let somebody else enjoy it.
Well, the funny thing about the gold discs is, which I never realised, that you have to pay for them, or you had to pay for them at the time.
Oh, really?
So, yes, you had to pay for them. So, I mean, probably they didn't have as many. I mean, I'm very lucky. I've got a gold disc for Definitely Maybe for 100,000 sales, which predates that was a very early one that was given out because it sold a lot more than 100,000. And that belonged to the guy that started off Creation Records. So I've got his one, and he's not got many at all left. So these things are nice to keep.
Oh, I bet they are. Yeah, I bet they are.
That Liam's thrown into the stage, or maracas that Bez is used from the Happy Mondays. Certain artists have certain things that they're known for, so everyone would love one of Liam's tambourines or Bez's, maracas. So
I bet they would. Is there anything you're on the hunt for right now? You think, that would be just incredible to own that?
I would love one of Noel Gallagher's guitars. I mean, that would be, especially the Union Jack one. I mean,
well, he might be listening. He's probably listening right now. No, come on.
He loves your show. Actually, he told me last week he listened to him.
Nice guy.
Yeah. And he loves your Hawaiian shirts as well.
Oh, there we go. Got to have that little bit of tropicalness, haven't you? Now, your book, Buying Into Britpop, all about not music from the 90s. If you had to put a pin on one decade for the best in music, in your opinion, would you say it was the 90s?
Well, everything comes back around fashion, doesn't it? So the 90s was like the 60s turned on its head. If we didn't have bands like the Beatles and the Stones, then we wouldn't have bands like Oasis, and obviously heavily influenced by that. For my growing up in the through the sort of late 80s, 90s, I loved 60s music, and I was hearing it from my parents playing it. And of course, when the 90s exploded with the Britpop, with the movement, because the Britpop wasn't just about music, it was fashion, it was art, it was politics, all these things created movement, and that filled the gap for me when I heard Oasis on the radio. I thought, oh wow, this is, I really loved it, and I got so immersed into it. But I mean, 60s is a big thing for me, and of course, obviously the 90s, because I grew up through it, so it was a big part for me. But yeah, we all love a bit of Britpop,
I love a bit of Pulp myself. I think Pulp did some incredible songs in the 90s.
Well, I mean, they'd been going from about, I think, about the late 70s, 80s. They'd been going for quite a while. I mean, the thing was, they'd had, I think, 2 or 3 albums out before they actually really, had the success from they really hit it. They've been going for quite a while.
Yeah.
They didn't seem to sort of fit. And then when Britpop came, it just all sort of exploded for them. There's a lot of bands, like Texas, they've been going for ages. I mean, Manic Street Preachers started off as a sort of a post-punk kind of band,
Yeah. I think Texas are doing some of their best works right now.
Well, there's been a resurgence, you see, of these kind of heritage bands, as we call it. And they all did really well coming back out. I mean, some, like Shed 7, I mean, they were selling out bigger gigs and sort of seemed to be doing better than they did first time round. Because there is a demand, and because I think Oasis didn't reform, then it just opened the floodgate for loads of other bands, and people just needed to see it. And you've got to remember, some of these people now in the 40s, maybe early 50s, and there's a nostalgia to it as well. And it's like in any kind of music, when you just played George Michael there, I mean, people think, oh, I just got engaged then, or I just started at uni. It conjures up so much stuff, and people want to buy a piece of that moment in time. And that's where I think the memorabilia comes in. So I'd love a signed George Michael autograph. And of course, when these people die, like Amy Winehouse or George Michael or David Bowie, there's a huge surge of people buying this stuff. And probably for about 18 months, and the prices will calm down a little bit. But you will find this as soon as somebody passes, that, and then of course there's these vinyls that have been reissued, or, there's an album that they hadn't quite put out. Everything's all, brought back to the forefront again of that artist, and they're popular again, aren't they, for a certain amount of time.
Absolutely. Hey, well, thanks so much for joining me today. Your book, Buying Into Britpop, is out now.
It is.
Wonderful. Well, I'm buying into the whole Britpop movement. I think the 90s was wonderful. We'll be playing some later on in the show. Hey, you have a great weekend, Rob.
You too. Thanks for having the show. Thanks, Martin.
All the best. That's Rob Fiddaman there.